This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carannante.
Welcome to the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carannante. I don't know, you can't let him fool you, because every time you give the Yankees an inch, they take a freaking mile. Every time you try to relax and celebrate and enjoy where you are and look at where you are in regard to other teams and just say, wow, I can take a breather for the next 2 weeks. These games aren't going to be that important. They decide, no, you're not safe. We're going to open the door. We're going to keep you anxious. The New York Yankees played maybe their most fun game of the year on Monday in Washington. That's up for debate, but there were a lot of moments in that game that were very memorable. Closed out pretty effortlessly by Clay Holmes. Not really in doubt after the Nestor Cortes bases-loaded strikeout of Andres Chaparro. And I'm not saying after that game the Yankees needed to take the series to make a statement. I'm also not saying you can judge them as a whole based on a couple of random individual games in Washington. I understand making grandiose statements only gets you in trouble. But after that game, they were 10 games up on a playoff spot on the Red Sox because the Red Sox got swept in a doubleheader, increasing their losing streak at home to 5 games. The Yankees were also 2 up on the O's for the division lead, and it felt safe to say, okay, they won the first one in D.C. This is a bad Nats team. They'll probably lose one of these next 2, and I don't have to think about it that much because there's enough distance between them and the teams that are chasing them. There's enough distance between them and the edge of a playoff spot. I could probably relax and enjoy baseball for like 10 days as long as disaster doesn't strike. Well, the Red Sox won both their games. The Yankees lost both their games. The Orioles and Dodgers split, but the Yankees are now just 1 game up on the O's, 8 in the loss column up on the Red Sox. Not that I'm saying that the Yankees are going to get tracked down by the bottom of the wild card picture, just that I'm saying it felt like you could fully relax and disassociate for about 24 hours before they lost the edge they gained in the first game of the series. That fun little cushion, it's already gone back down to 8, the where it was on Sunday. I'm pretty sure the Yankees will make the playoffs. I'm pretty sure we have to talk about a playoff roster, but I guess I'm not allowed to take a single game off from worrying from now until the end of the season because that's where we're at. Never going to be comfortable enough to do that. Even when it seems impossible for you to not be comfortable enough to do that. Garrett Cole against Patrick Corbin, the worst qualified starter in MLB. We're going to lose that game? Yup. Mackenzie Gore with a lefty. We can't hit lefties, but he's got reverse splits. So theoretically, our lineup should be able to tee off on him a little bit because if we can't hit a typical lefty, maybe we can hit a lefty that can't get righties out. Nope. Same game twice. Ominously, both games ended with Juan Soto in the on-deck circle as blood red light shone upon him from Washington's ridiculous in-stadium post-game win celebration. Kyle Finnegan put guys on base in both games. Kyle Finnegan got Gleyber Torres for the final out in both games. If you weren't in why is this happening mode when you were watching Garrett Cole give up the long ball and Patrick Corbin perfectly locate his fastball, which he hasn't done all year. If you look at the heat map, literally all season long, it's big red blob in the center of the plate, meaning he gets the ball over the center of the plate, meaning people are crushing him. That's why he has been so bad. And if you look at the heat map from Friday night, dotting, right at the edge, corner of the zone, perfect pitching. So if you want to say, how could the Yankees have lost to Patrick Corbin? Patrick Corbin looked better than he has all year. Not just because the offense was poor, which we know they can't hit lefties. I'm sure they were below average in their approach, but Corbin was perfect. So you relax, you let up for a couple of seconds, and you get perfect Patrick Corbin, the worst starter in baseball, dominating your roster. And then another loss for good measure where Carlos Rodón couldn't hear the pitch come, and neither could Mackenzie Gore, but guess which one of them it threw off. So, hope everything's perfect in October.
Which one?
85 and sunny, no wind. Looking forward to that game 2 Carlos Rodón start. No lights. What's the perfect start time? No sunset, like 1 o'clock in the afternoon for a playoff game. But then the sun might be too bright. Maybe we played in a dome. It got to accommodate Carlos for sure. Can't afford any discrepancies and imperfections and dimples. Thomas Carannante, welcome to the podcast. Yankees lost 2-3 to the Nats. It is what it is. Again, semi-random late August series. Nats are ascending a little bit. They're better than their record.
Yeah.
None of the other teams that lost to the Nats faced Dylan Cruz. James Wood has been one of the best hitters in baseball since his call-up, or at least he's found his footing over the past couple of weeks. Chaparro's only been here for a couple of weeks. Nats are fine. I think they're a couple of pitching additions away from being a Royals-esque team next year if Wood and Cruz really take that Bobby Witt Jr. step forward. That said, a really competitive series, a fun series with a bottom to mid-tier team that resulted in a series loss where you had the pitching advantage in games 2 and 3 after winning the first one. I'm not going to give the Yankees a moral victory in this one. It's a bad series. It's a bad series you can move on from, but it's a bad baseball series.
Yeah, I mean, and we are encouraged by their record against good teams, right? They beat the good teams too, but
after the Rays lost and fell to 500, but below 500, they're now 31-26 against sub 500, 47-30 against above 500. That's still quite good. That's from NY Yankees stats on Twitter. And you only face above 500 teams in the playoffs these days. So that's great. But it really is the difference between good teams and great teams. Good teams compete with good teams. That's a better record than I would expect for above 500 teams. But they crush bad teams. This team plays 500 or below teams like they're playing 500 or above teams. Every game is a coin flip. And for some reason, the coin has fallen the wrong way for them far more often than it should.
Yeah, and again, the postseason is what we worry about because, again, when the stakes are elevated, there is this weird dichotomy with the Yankees where they have these splits against good and bad teams, but then they falter in high-pressure moments against no matter the opponent. They get punked when the storyline is, there's some sort of adversity in there, or there's a former player involved, or there's a former team involved. You know how it goes. But they face the Guardians, who are slowly falling apart. They face the Rockies, who are bottom 3 in baseball. And then they face the Nationals, solid upstart team, but definitely beatable. The Orioles have a gauntlet. They're on the road against the Red Hot Mets. They're home for a 4-game series against the hot Astros, and now they're on the road against the Dodgers, and the Yankees aren't really going to make the Yankees made no separation. They're 13-11 this month. This is the softest part of their schedule. So I'm really trying to figure out what team is this? Are the Yankees the 50-22 team that got out to the hot start that they did, or are they the 28-34 team that we're witnessing right now? And I know it's somewhere in the middle, but that also doesn't inspire me either. I understand that the racing out to 50-22 was not realistic. They had a decent amount of injury situations on their side. And even if they had bad injury news on their side, they had these ridiculous resurgence from players that you would have never expected. Luis Heel essentially replacing Garrett Cole, Marcus Stroman going on a run there for a while, the offense picking up any bad start that they had. Carlos Rodón looked great in the beginning of the year. Now he hit that rough patch, and
whole rotation looked like all-star. Whole rotation looked all-star bound for a while through the beginning of June. Honestly, Rodón starting KC, you were like, they're going to leave some of these guys off, but 3 of these 5 dudes are going to make the all-star team, and then none of them did.
No, and the problem is with the consistency, and the problem is with handling the bigger moments, and the biggest problem for me is stepping on the opponent's throat, and the Yankees very rarely do that. I understand they have a large run differential, but you can count more times that they have let a starter remain in the game after getting after them early, or they let an underqualified or guy making his MLB debut last in the game much longer than they should have, than you can games where the Yankees chase the starter or force the team to go to the bullpen early. You look at this series specifically, the 3 starters that the Nationals put out there. I mean, I'm not saying they're bad in terms of Mitchell Parker and Mackenzie Gore. Again, upstart players could help you down the line. Don't know what they look at. Don't know what they're going to profile as long-term, but they're working their way into the major league mix. You have to beat Patrick Corbin. That's just the way of the world. That was his second scoreless start all year. His only other one came against the Dodgers in April, and it ended up being a loss anyway.
And I refuse to expand my definition of guy I'm scared of to Mackenzie Gore. Like,
yeah, correct.
He could beat you, but I absolutely, I've been to plenty of low places in my life as a Yankee fan. I cannot go, well, Mackenzie Gore and his 4.5 ERA. Well, that's a loss. Like, I can't do that right now. He's a decent enough starting pitcher, but I can't do that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. All these guys can't. Mackenzie Gore had a 4.5, a little bit over a 4.5 ERA. Parker had over a 4.3. Again, not bad. These guys are not bad, but they put up quality starts against the lineup that, well, Mitchell Parker's wasn't. It was 4 4 innings, but
no, we
Yankees
got him. We got Mitchell Parker. He got owned.
We sort of got him, but then again, they had no runs scored with runners in scoring position that game.
No, and Austin Wells hits the home run against the righty from the bullpen, and so then you can't even have the fun lefty-righty Wells argument because they start scoring when they take Mitchell Parker out.
Yeah, so it's I think the same concerns exist, which is what we were talking about Monday. We're sitting there and you're coming off of series victories against the Guardians. You're coming off of a series victory against the Rockies, but there was the worst loss of the year on Tuesday against the Guardians. There was the Old Timers Day flop on Saturday against the Rockies. And now you have an exciting win on Monday against the Nationals, which I thought was extremely promising based on the way they played. Putting the ball in play, aggressive on the great base paths, aggressive early in counts, playing really good, sound defense. Things just clicking, felt good. You got Nestor Cortes rebounding, which we got to give him credit for. He was really bad right out of the gate after the All-Star break, and now he's looking like he's going to remain in the postseason rotation if everything holds. We know these conversations are constantly up in the air, but you take that momentum from the Saturday bludgeoning of the Rockies and then this really cool win on Monday, and you follow up with 4 runs scored against 2 not really great pitchers and don't hit with runner. 1 for 26 in the series with runners in scoring position. A lot of dumb defensive shit that I'm just sick of watching. And strikeouts, striking out a ton still. So nothing has changed for me, unfortunately. Even if they would have won this series 2 games, like the only thing that would have changed this for me is a sweep. And I know sweeps are hard in baseball, but if you lose the sandwich game to Patrick Corbin in the way that you did, I'm still not entirely confident, because that shouldn't happen. And I understand baseball is one of the most unique sports ever. Inexplicable things happen all the time, more so than any other sport. Mm-hmm. But the trends with which the Yankees endure these inexplicable stretches it's a pattern. It's not just, oh man, that's baseball, Susan. It's what the fuck is happening and why does it keep happening? And look, if you're not going to gain any ground or put cushion in between you and the Orioles,
which you're not,
during your easiest stretch of the season, you're not going to do it in September because, again, that's the stretch run, and that's when this team famously does not take advantage of these moments. So, yeah, it is what it is. My hope, the only thing that is going to separate this team from any other team in the postseason at this point is catching lightning in a bottle when October arrives.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing. Because the consistency is not there. The energy and the attitude is not there. It just isn't, at least on a night-to-night basis. The thing that bothers me most actually about Aaron Boone, now that I've listened to more of these Talking Yanks things, is he says how important it is to not get too low or get too high. And I think the result has been just sit in the middle the whole year and see where it gets you. And it's coast after coast after coast, and it's accepting shit like this that we've seen the last 3 series. Extra innings lost Tuesday, Old Timers Day embarrassment, and then scoring 9 runs against a pitching staff that threw a cumulative group of starters who had a 5 ERA.
It's the kind of attitude that gets you no positive momentum.
Yeah.
Because in the first game of the series, could not have gone better for you. Like, it's games like that briefly trick you into thinking, like, all right, everything might be okay. We might be able to take our foot off the fear gas pedal for a little bit. Nestor holds the lead. You're into the bullpen, but you have a sizable advantage. Give up a run, and then there's Jazz Chisholm with the insurance homer. And you're like, oh, it can be this simple. Yeah. Like, they didn't care. They gave up a bomb. The bullpen started to slump a little bit, but never mind. There's Jazz. It's gone. Forget that ever happened. We equalized it. I remember in the 2018 wild card, like, things were getting a little bit dicey late. Not really. They were holding a 3-run lead. Stanton hit like a 440-foot homer over the left field foul pole. Just that feeling of like, oh, okay. Oh, now it's 7-2. We saw that the other team was applying pressure, and we responded. This team has given us so few of those days over the course of the season. And if you find yourself thinking, like, when it's 4-2 in the 9th, and it's first and second one out in the second game, in the Corbin game, and DJ LeMahieu gets that at bat, if I'm watching a really good team down 4-2 with those 2 runners on in the same situation, whether LeMahieu's up, whether it's the worst guy in your lineup or the best, I'm thinking that the game is probably going to tilt pretty soon. and that the good team is going to take control, because Kyle Finnegan's been gassed in the second half of the season. If I'm watching, once the Verdugo single goes through that hole instead of being a double play, I'm like, oh, okay, advantage, good team on the road. Like, they're going to take a lead going into the bottom of the ninth. Let's see if they can hold it. And the Yankees, I'm never getting that. I can't remember the last time I actively thought they were going to complete a comeback. And that's not just pessimism related to being a fan of this team that has been long very talented, having very impressive seasons, but unable to get over the edge. They are 5-21 this year when trailing after the first inning.
Crazy.
That is at the bottom of baseball, in the bottom three, tied. They're right there with the Pirates, Blue Jays, and White Sox. Three dreadful teams. And that's a stat that indicates that a team isn't good. The Pirates were in the wild card hunt for a while. They have been the worst team in baseball for the last month, essentially, if not for the advent of the Chicago White Sox, who are the literal worst team in baseball. The Texas Rangers have more wins at guaranteed rate field this week than the White Sox have in the second half, which is a funny stat until you think about the Yankees losing to the White Sox at guaranteed rate field in the fucking second half. So no one's done that except for us. Nobody. Just us. We did that. You're sharing the stage with the White Sox, Blue Jays, and Pirates. And that is, for me, of all the playoff medal indicators, it's the number one that should raise alarm bells. Because guess what? A playoff run's not going to be peachy. We just remembered 2009. Alex Rodriguez 2-run home run to tie the game in the ninth against the Twins. Alex Rodriguez solo home run to tie the game in extras against the Angels. The Johnny Damon double steal game where A-Rod doubles in the lead run in the ninth. That one started 3-0 Phillies. Andy Pettitte struggled. Andy Pettitte tied the game with a ribby single all by himself. But Pettitte put the Yankees in a hole. The Yankees were down 3-0, threatening to go down 2-1 in that series with 2 more road games. They could have lost the World Series in 5. But they didn't. They fought back and they won it in 6, and they won that game. World Series runs are difficult. You're going to be trailing. You're going to be trailing early. You're going to get punched in the mouth. If you can't punch back, you're going to lose the baseball game. So if you feel like the Yankees trailing at the end of the first inning is a death sentence, and you've got friends who root for other teams saying, are you insane? It's 2-0. Why are you tweeting as if this is a loss?
Yeah.
Why are you already despondent? It's because this team is one of the worst in baseball at shrugging off that early punch and counter punching. And so 4-2 in the ninth, that Verdugo single, the momentum is decidedly in the Yankees' direction. Finnegan can't find the plate, and LeMahieu takes the AB. And I honestly can't look, I would much rather pinch hit Oswaldo Cabrera there, but you should be able to, anybody you have in your lineup should be confident enough to keep that inning going with Finnegan going off the rails. And with LeMahieu's plate discipline as good as it's been for his whole career, I do have implicit trust in DJ LeMahieu to not create a catastrophe. I probably shouldn't, because all he does is create catastrophes these days. And the double play early in yesterday's game was another example. And he can't be playing much longer. And that's the other disadvantage of playing this series freaking August 27th and 28th instead of September 1st. I have to watch that shit while Anthony Rizzo rehabs in Somerset. And then the next night, it's first and second, nobody out. You're going to tell me that they're going to not only not rally, not only not tie it, but Juan Soto's not going to get up either night. He's not even going to have a chance. Gleyber Torres is going to strike out and fly out to end both games. The statistical probability of coming up that short 2 times in a row, if you are really a great team, if you are really one of the differentiators in the league and a separator and a team that other teams should be afraid of, your feelings aren't invalid. They don't rally. They don't walk off. They don't take late leads. They certainly don't hold late leads. The Ben Rice homer in Baltimore. If they're down early, they're not coming back. And some of that's a function of Carlos Rodón melting down in the first. So they're not just trailing 1-0 at the end of the first. They're often trailing 4 or 5-0 at the end of the first when they are trailing in the first. But still, these aren't death sentences. Homer on the road. You give a good team a 2-0 or 3-0 deficit in the first inning. How many good teams in Major League Baseball have faced those deficits every day? It's basically still a coin flip. Yeah. You should be a 500 team. If you're a really good team and you're trailing at the end of the first, you should be 14-15. Or 17-16. It should be pretty much a coin flip whether you're able to come back or not. And the quality of the opponent on the other side should be somewhat determinative there. Patrick Corbin, Mackenzie Gore specifically, they're trailing at the end of the first yesterday. They don't even really make him sweat. And that's right in line with what they've done all year. And that's why they're hanging out with the Pirates and the Blue Jays and the White Sox. And that's why they've guaranteed themselves of nothing but scrutiny and skepticism heading into another postseason.
Yep. We can get into these injury updates. I think they're important. But one thing we do have to note is we do shit on the Yankees for being bad against left-handers, and they are, but they're not that bad. 720 OPS, not terrible. The split's 797 versus righties. The problem is the slugging, 392 slugging, which is awful. And it's buoyed by their league-leading amount of home runs against left-handed pitching, 54. So it's the lack of consistency against left-handers. So if they sneak a few home runs in there that are either irrelevant or meaningless for the time and circumstance of the game, that might be elevating these stats. Whereas we're looking at the eye test and we're like, this team can't hit lefties. So what are they doing? Why is there no improvement here? Because I was looking at the numbers and I was like, what really are the numbers? And it's 238 average, 749 OPS against left-handed starters. Not terrible.
Not terrible.
233 average, 720 OPS against left-handed pitching, but that 392 slugging is bad. That's a bad slugging percentage. And 233 average obviously isn't good. Because then you have complaints about the runners in scoring position too, right? 253 average, 792 OPS, pretty good. 2 outs of runners in scoring position, 223 average, 716 OPS. Sure. Like, I don't know. You look at the whole picture, though, and against lefty pitching, they are 25th in the league in batting average, 234. Their OPS is 17th, not great. Again, that slugging puts them towards the bottom of the league at they're at 18th as well with the Rockies, but that's, being involved with the Rockies in any capacity is never a good look.
No.
My issue is you look at the teams who are good against lefties: Phillies, Mets, Orioles, Braves, Twins, Dodgers, Athletics, that's funny, but Diamondbacks, Royals, Astros, Guardians, that's your main competition. So, and if they, I don't know in terms of how many lefty starters they might be throwing at in a playoff series, especially for the AL teams, but we have 2 lefty starters who are going to be in the rotation probably at this point. So I don't know. The stats indicate it's really not that bad, but what we watch suggests that it is that bad. Like 1 for 26 over a 3-game series, hitting with runners in scoring position against a team that's below 500 is kind of unforgivable.
Yep.
So I don't know. Just trying to put that in perspective, because I know, next episode you'll see Aaron Boone being like, actually, we went through the numbers and we saw that we're pretty much we're better than everybody thinks. And it's like, yeah, but it's still not really translating to wins, and it's still not translating to momentum. And this team is still living and dying by the wins that they banked earlier this year. And that's just not how it's going to work when we get closer to down the stretch. There's a month left in the season starting today. Month left. Can't believe we're here, but we haven't seen enough of the trends turn around to the point where we're comfortable with how we feel about the team's playoff chances.
Under 30 games, 78-56. You got 28 games left.
And you can win. Look, they have the best record in the AL. They have the best record in the AL.
Yeah.
You can win purely based on talent. Again, we saw the guys roll through on Old Timers Day. They said talent is very important. No one's discounting that. Attitude, ability to thrive off of momentum are what makes the difference. Outside of the 50-22 stretch, there has been no indication that they'd be able to do this. And again, coinciding with midseason collapses, this is now 2020, 2021, 2022. This is a 5th year running now. Mm-hmm. Because I will give them credit. 2017, grit in the playoffs was great. 2018, all the injuries they dealt with, they ran into a buzzsaw that was the Red Sox, who were also probably cheating.
Who managed the 2017 team?
Not Aaron Boone.
Not Aaron Boone.
2019, that, good team, really good team, battled injuries, got to the playoffs. Giancarlo Stanton's injury ended up kind of being the difference, and obviously getting punked by the Astros pitching. We don't know if there was foul play there with the sign stealing or whatever else was going on, but I'd even give those teams credit. Like, they battled hard throughout the regular season. We felt as good as we ever had about a Yankees championship team in the modern era. have not had those feelings at all, even close, for the last 5 years. So you talk about the midsummer collapses. You talk about, again, I know, like, I don't want to grill Carlos Rodón. I like him a lot. I still support him being here, but 2 pitchers dealt with pitch comm issues. He was the one that got murdered by it in the first 2 innings. And the young, 23, 24-year-old pitcher didn't. Like, I don't know, dude. I don't know. That's just what happened. And now that's the basis of information that I have. I watched the game. It resulted in a balk. It resulted in a home run. It resulted in a near spiral that should have been a lot worse than what transpired in that first inning. So, like, I don't know. That's a veteran pitcher. Pitch comm really shouldn't fuck you up that bad. Don't know. Like, it falls in line with everything else.
Well, they had a shot in that one yesterday. They had a shot when it was 2-0 to 2-1. They had a shot in the 9th inning, and they didn't win because they usually don't win when they're down early. They just they typically don't win. There could be some returning arms that help them. The little too early DFA of Michael Tonkin we talked about last week, it was going to happen at some point anyway. Now he's a Minnesota Twin as the Minnesota Twins look to hold off the Boston Red Sox for that last playoff spot. Again, very funny. The Red Sox went from like a game back of KC to 6.5 back, and I was like, hell yeah. And then all of a sudden the Twins can't win. Now they're only 3 out of a playoff spot. Very funny. Hopefully the Detroit Tigers, who have a chance, if they show some
cool what they're doing. I wish we could do that.
We helped the Detroit Tigers by getting walked off by the Tigers. Now they're 4.5 out of a playoff spot.
What are they 14-3 in their last 17?
Yep, sure are. And they've even faced challenging above 500 teams like the New York Yankees, strong opponents. But we have some players welcoming themselves back.
The injury updates. That was where
it would seem we were talking about injury updates instead of Parker Meadows and Spencer Torkelson or whatever. Bunch of rehabbers at Somerset this week and Scranton. Clark Schmidt, Anthony Rizzo, Ian Hamilton all have looked varying degrees of strong. I will also add John Birdie to that mix. Is that somebody who ends up on a playoff roster? We probably are at the point 28 games out where we do have to talk about playoff rosters.
Mm-hmm.
It's not assured. I can't guarantee you the Yankees are going to need a playoff roster, but it does seem it would be smarter to prepare for one than to not prepare for one. And also in the likelihood, we've already got the Twins collapsing, so there'll probably be a second collapser in the mix there if we do collapse. I don't want to think about it, but if we're projecting out to the postseason, September should be a very important month. August should have been a very important month as well, but apparently the Yankees didn't take it very seriously and played some bad teams.
Have they taken August seriously in the last 5 years?
It's hard to tell because were they taking it seriously when Boone was punching the table and the 2022 team was going like 4-18 and losing, and Josh Donaldson was walking off the Rays, but then they were coming back the next day and losing some more? Like, were they taking it seriously? I felt like they were. They were just losing every single day because that's what they did. This year, I feel like they didn't take it seriously at all. I'm glad it's almost over. I'm glad they have an off day today. I'm glad there are only 2 more games in August against the spiraling team in the St. Louis Cardinals, who we face at home. And who the hell knows? Who knows anymore? If Patrick Corbin, Garrett Cole looked like that, who knows? But we're 2 starts deep for Clark the Shark. 6 2/3 innings, 11 strikeouts, 0.90 whip. He's in my playoff rotation, and he's in my Yankees rotation ASAP. Please help me. Help me help you win games. I don't think they're going to undergo a major roster shuffle headed into this weekend, especially with September 1st so close behind. So, like, if you're like, hey, they should show urgency and bring up Jason Dominguez for Friday's game. No, they shouldn't. They've spent this long not doing that. They've spent this long not doing that. They should do it on Sunday, but they should not do it on Friday. I would like to see Tim Mayza DFA'd and Ian Hamilton brought back for Friday night. 2 1/3 innings, 6 Ks, hitting 98, 0 ERA across the board. Hitting 98, according to those on the screen in Somerset. They even intentionally walked somebody because they're using these minor league games for experimental purposes. They intentionally walked somebody with another reliever and then took that guy out so Hamilton could just face batters with a guy on. Strikeout. We're good. He couldn't look better right now. Couldn't look fresher. They could use an infusion of Ian Hamilton to the bullpen. He's carried a 1.58 whip this year out of the big league bullpen. That's not him. That's not good enough. I want this version. And Anthony Rizzo, deeply, deeply sad observation from Chris Kirshner. who wrote about his potential playoff roster this fall today. He kept Marcus Stroman off, which was interesting to me. He kept DJ LeMahieu off. He kept Alex Verdugo off. Again, a lot of things that are easier to write about than actually do, but I appreciate the candor. Anyway, here's the most important part. Anthony Rizzo has an 80 WRC plus this year and ranks 20th in outs above average among all first basemen this season. And we were all talking about how he looked a step slow, and we were nervous that the concussion was still having after effects on his reflexes. Kirshner says, yet his return is being hailed as if prime Don Mattingly were walking through the clubhouse doors. It's for good reason. An 80 WRC plus would be 17% better than the 63 WRC plus the Yankees have received from their first baseman since Rizzo broke his arm on June 16th. They rank dead last at the position since that date. Remember when we were all like, wow, they wouldn't have made this tough Ben Rice decision otherwise without Rizzo going down. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise. Maybe they get to see what they have. I'm not saying Ben Rice has looked fantastic, as evidenced by that league worst WRC plus from the position, but they barely use him. They don't use him against lefties. They stunted his growth, and DJ LeMahieu plays 3 out of every 4 games at the position, and he's been awful. I love him. I have a DJ LeMahieu jersey. I hope I can wear it again someday. He's been awful. So, yeah. Anthony Rizzo homered in Somerset, and Anthony Rizzo looked confident with the glove in Somerset. But it's deeply upsetting that even if Anthony Rizzo looks like the same 20% below average player he was when he was here last time, he still represents a massive upgrade over what they ran out in his wake. Doesn't encourage me about the postseason. But I guess if this is the way things look without Rizzo and with pure, unfiltered Drek in his place, then perhaps things are about to improve. I know it might be a little while before we see Clark. Shouldn't be any longer before we see Hamilton and Rizzo. Option Rice, DFA Meza. You don't need to expand the rosters to get this done.
Yeah, it seems like it's pretty self-explanatory. My whole thing with the Ben Rice, DJ LeMahieu thing is just, you know what you have in DJ LeMahieu right now. He's not doing anything for this team on a full-time basis. Shouldn't be this year, is not in the plans beyond this year. If he is, then they're just lying to themselves. So, like, why would we just not play Ben Rice more? Again, Ben Rice has his problems. He is a rookie. He's getting acclimated to MLB speed. It's a challenge. No one was expecting him to bat 350 out of the gate or even 270. It just wasn't going to happen. But to give him 42 plate appearances against lefties, stunt his growth with part-time duty, which is never helpful for a young player, which is why we worry about Austin Wells all the time, because the guy finally hits his stride, outplays his direct competition at the position, and is still getting penalized just because there's somebody who throws with the opposite arm on the mound that day, regardless of what the splits say. So that's where the decision-making here is a little bit puzzling. Ben Rice, don't know if he is, but could be a future player here. Remember, Anthony Rizzo, free agent after the season. If they pick up his player option, they are out of their minds. Or if they pick up his team option, they're out of their minds. DJ LeMahieu, they have to figure out a way to buy down the contract, get rid of him, do whatever. Or I guess he's last guy on the bench. Sure, whatever, fine. He can play multiple positions. Great. But Ben Rice is a prospect. Ben Rice is a lefty slugger. Ben Rice is a first baseman. You need all of those things in some capacity right now and for the next 2 or 3 years. He should just be getting more playing time. I understand DJ LeMahieu has the veteran experience. He's earned, like Aaron Boone has said, the ability to work out of this slump. He has not done that in any capacity. I know he kind of played okay this series. He had those sac flies in the opener, hit and run scored in the 2 following games. Like, sure, I'll take that from the 8-9 hitter. That's fine, but that's not what we need. We don't need DJ LeMahieu maybe batting 250. Like, I understand there's nostalgia involved. There is veteran presence and seniority involved. But if you're looking at a bigger picture and you want to have the best playoff roster possible, wouldn't that be seeing what you had in Ben Rice and maybe using him as a lefty weapon off the bench at some point in the postseason if you needed to, rather than just clinging to old memories of DJ LeMahieu and hoping he can turn it around over the next month, even though he's been chronically injured for the last 5 years and or 4 years and hasn't really been able to find a groove. I don't know. That's where I feel the manager's got to come in and do something. And that's why we've run into the spot here where it's like, you're kind of sitting there and you're like, when's Anthony Rizzo coming back? I think we kind of need him. And in reality, like, that shouldn't have been a conversation. They should have figured out some sort of succession plan for Rizzo when he went down before the trade deadline. They opted not to do that. Didn't even have to do it in a manner that would have been expensive or cost prohibitive or disrespectful. Could have even optioned Rice at that point and said, great, we're bringing in another first baseman. DJ, your part-time duty. We have, I don't know who was available at the deadline that even moved hands. There was one or two guys. Either way,
Josh Bell goes to the Diamondbacks. Yeah. Like, not my choice, but
no, but upgrade. You want to, Don, you made the comment about, Anthony Rizzo coming back being hailed as Don Mattingly's return because his WRC plus is 17 points higher than what the team's getting at production out of the position right now. Like, that means you knew what the problem was. DJ LeMahieu has been a problem for years now. Ben Rice had that 3-homer game in July and then kind of immediately fell off. And you kind of said at that point, okay, great. He had his 15 minutes of fame, probably needs some more development. Let's get him in the minors. Let's get another veteran in here. They didn't do that. So as much as, we could criticize Aaron Boone for his lineups, whatever, the personnel's not there. We know Aaron Boone can't maximize and won't maximize, but in terms of those injury returns, they need Schmidt as soon as possible. I guess I'll take Rizzo back, and I badly need Ian Hamilton back. The bullpen absolutely needs another multi-inning guy who could throw gas, and the fact that he's looked that good so far, hitting 98 on the gun, striking out batters with regularity, awesome. Get him back here. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the team's inability to take that step forward, I think, comes down to the way that they hand out playing time and the way that they don't make decisions fast enough and the way that they let underperformers linger and the way that they punish good production. And again, that's been a trend for 5 years. So rewind the podcast back to 2020 and it's in inception. We've been talking about this for a while. And that's where it all lies. And you talk about the lineups. No reason Austin Wells shouldn't be starting most games per week. Jose Trevino shouldn't be taking, 3-4 games away from him. That's just not that's not what should be happening. I understand there's value in him as a pinch hitter, but I also don't want him pinch hitting. I want him in there the entire time. Pinch hitting creates unnecessary pressure. And then, he's been succeeding in that role, but I don't need a young guy having to be relied upon as a pinch hitter. It doesn't really bode well for your development and your ability to last as an everyday big leaguer. So, you go, like, Ben Rice doesn't play a game since what, Sunday or Saturday?
Yeah, he played pretty ineffectively last week, and then they always use that. Well, what do you want? That guy was an over against the Rockies. You want that guy in the lineup? Like, the ship has already sailed at this point. I think we're done here. But I'm
not even arguing for him to get more playing time right now. It's like you could have either made the decision prior or made him and DJ a true platoon, because at this point, the way that they're both performing, it's fair to do that. And you're only hurting one other person. You're hurting Ben Rice by having him just sit on the bench when he needs probably AAA at bats.
Yeah, I decided to go back and look because he still has in his MLB, last 15 games, etc. He's got 3 homers in his last 30 games. He's got 1 in his last 15 games. And I was like, when did Ben Rice homer? Like, I don't remember that. And then I looked back and those are still the 1 in his last 15 games is the freaking he hit a homer in Philly that I can barely recall after the All-Star break. But if you look back in the last 30 games, the Orioles game from ahead of the deadline is still in there. Like the Orioles game from ahead of the All-Star break, the Clay Holmes game that he almost won, and a homer he hit in Tampa. Those are the 3 on July 9th. So last 30 games includes July 9th. It's August 29th. That's why I don't remember them, because they were 2 months ago.
Yeah, it's... Again, I don't know what the value of the Yankees. How many times has this been an excuse too, right? Where they send a guy down and we're like, we need him to get everyday reps at AAA. He's more valuable there. And then they do the opposite for a player like this, and it helps absolutely nobody. Doesn't help the MLB roster because you're giving them 0 time. You're not cycling them in the lineup enough, and it hurts their development because they're not getting the everyday reps that they need, or even the bare minimum part-time reps that they need. So I don't know, man.
The toughest thing about watching these Yankees is like, I get on Cashman, we get on Boone. I don't think the roster construction is up to par. We talked a little bit today about how they used to never hit righties and high leverage righty relievers in the playoffs. And then they remembered they needed lefty hitters and they got Rizzo and Gallo and Verdugo. And now they can't hit lefties. Like, it can't be this hard to find a balance. And I think some of it lands on Cashman. But also, the milkshake duck tweet? That tweet that's like, everyone on the internet loves milkshake duck, the delightful duck that drinks milkshakes. 5 minutes later, we regret to inform you the duck is racist. Like, it feels like that every time a guy comes up and has a good 2 weeks. Like, or you just can't count on guys who've had previous good long stretches of dedicated production in history. Like, Ben Rice hits a 3-homer game against the Red Sox. And my first thought isn't, oh, good, we've solved the first base problem. It's like, how long before he just disappears off planet Earth? And the answer was after that Orioles game. Go into the All-Star break, come out of it, you never see Ben Rice again. And you're going to have people who haven't watched the Yankees all year be like, didn't you guys have a young first baseman who was kind of killing it? Why is your first base situation so bad? Because he never played, then he stopped killing it. Every time. How could you rely on Gleyber Torres entering this year? How stupid are you? Well, because Gleyber Torres had like a 118 OPS plus last year. So I actually don't think that was that ridiculous. I just can't understand what's happened to him.
Yeah.
That's what keeps happening to the Yankees over and over again. Gleyber Torres is a well below average baseball player this year, and quibble with him all you want the last couple of years about pressure moments and defense. And yeah, I think Gleyber Torres is not a player that if he's up in a big moment in October, I'm like, I think that's a cinch, or that I trust him on defense, but I trusted him to get through the regular season as an above average back, because that's what he's done every year. And he was great last year. And he was their third best hitter. And we said, well, you can't have that. That's why you got to bring in Juan Soto and Alex Verdugo, and Anthony Volpe has to take a step up. He's got to be your 7th best hitter. And then this year, Wells has taken a step up, and Torres is unplayable. Where do these guys go? Alex Verdugo just had to be league average, and he is 25% worse than that. Where do these guys go?
Where do they go? I don't know. Yeah, that's the problem.
It's tough to
and again,
plan
we
for.
can't.
It's tough to plan for, because you assume
put our
whoever
finger on
you
it.
bring in. You assume whoever you bring in is going to do what they've done in the past, and none of them ever do.
Or even like a semblance.
Even approximate it. Like, if Alex Verdugo was approximately as good as he'd been last year,
it was 92 OPS plus.
We would be arguing about how it still wasn't enough of an October upgrade, but at least it got you through the regular season. And instead, we're like, can we continue to play this guy with a 65 WRC plus? No, God, that's awful. No, we cannot.
Yeah, the part that sucks the most is it's a completely intangible situation. And then, like, Brian Cashman gets asked about it, and he's like, you want to criticize Mr. Oppenheimer? It's the best in the biz. And it's like, I don't know, dude. Like,
he built the atomic bomb. I don't love that.
Based on what we've seen, I don't know if he is. I don't know if the analytics team is good. I don't know if the cast of player development guys is good. Like, I know the job is hard, but the Yankees don't develop players well. We have evidence of that. So what's going on? Why don't these free agents who come in and are supposed to make a semblance of an impact disappear? And like, Juan Soto's the exception. Yeah, you got a top 5 talent in the game. Okay, great. He's not going to crater, but what about the replacement level guys, or the role playing guys? It never works out, or even just the lineup lengtheners. I don't know. I just want to know why. That's it.
I don't know anything. That's why it's tough to predict, like, year over year. Like, should this Yankees roster have been better than last year's? Yes. Yeah. Did they do enough to reinforce it? Not quite, but
I mean, they are better than last year, I guess we could say.
What can I count on? Like, Carlos Rodón was bad last year after being great the 2 prior years. And I'm like, well, what can I count on? Is he going to look more like the back injury version of himself? Is he just bad now? Or is he going to come back and have a semblance of normalcy? And the answer is, he's had a better season than last year, but more often than not, he's been like the back injury guy. And once again, we just signed a guy who 2022 and 2021, great. Joins the Yankees 2023 and 2024 off rails in some unspecified capacity. So I'm sure Gleyber Torres will be better next year. Luis Severino this year, by the way, doesn't strike anybody out anymore, and all his peripherals are terrible. He's still better than he was last year when he struck everybody out, and he was throwing 99. So he should be much worse this year, and he isn't. He is, in fact, much better, because last year he was the worst pitcher in baseball.
Yeah. Well, who's coming up in September?
I don't know. No, I had somebody on Twitter. I got some reply guys now, not to brag, huge brag. But they're always cool? I don't trust the Yankees to do anything around. I don't think they're going to bring up Jason Dominguez. I can't even entertain a world where they don't bring up Jason Dominguez because I can't imagine who else they possibly bring up. There's a limit on pitchers. You can't flood your roster with pitchers. They're not going to bring up 2 relievers. I think this is as simple as Dominguez and Scott Efros come up as soon as rosters expand on September 1st. We see what we have. Hamilton and Rizzo come up soon as well. They require DFAs. Clark Schmidt's going to require a real roster move. They added a pinch runner the other day in Duke Ellis. I don't think he's long for the 40-man roster, but we'll see what we get at AAA in that capacity. I think there are going to be some tough calls and tough roster decisions, and John Birdie is another one, and he might result in a DJ LeMahieu DFA. That will never happen. I don't foresee it at all. It would blow my mind if it occurred, but yeah, I think they keep this one simple. I don't think they overcomplicate it. I think Caleb Durbin has a chance to win a job next year.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be here this fall. I think it's Jason Dominguez and Scott Efros. And the question is, when Dominguez comes up, does he play every day? Or does he play at least some semblance of every day? Are we going to treat September like September matters too?
No.
And if Jason Dominguez goes 1 for 9 in his first 3 starts, does he get a 4th one? Or do we staple him to the bench?
Well, we know the answer to that. I got an email this morning from our boy Brian Hoke. MLB.com's Joe Trezza helped contribute on this piece from Washington for the Yankees Beat newsletter. The topic of conversation was Jason Dominguez coming up to the Major League roster in September. And I will read these 2 paragraphs to you, followed by an Aaron Boone quote. Mm-hmm. Is there a path to everyday at-bats right now for Dominguez? Well, no. But even in a reserve role, having Dominguez should be a helpful boost for the Yankees for the stretch run. He's been swinging the bat well lately, too, recording multi-hit games, 5 of his last 8 contests at AAA. The opportunities Dominguez does get are likely to come at the expense of Verdugo, a left-handed hitter who has struggled more against lefties than righties in what has been a down season overall. Left-handed pitching has been the Achilles heel for the Yankees all season. The switch-hitting Dominguez would give them another right-handed option against lefties, as New York's current 5th outfielder, Trent Grisham, is also left-handed. Aaron Boone on Alex Verdugo. He can be such an impact player for us. I don't care who you are, a rookie or a veteran. You go through it. You go through some struggles. You go through a tough stretch. It wears on you. The grind is real. So a couple of months there where he grinded through it to get some traction, especially with all the work you put into it, pour in behind the scenes, try to unlock yourself and get it rolling to get some results. It's good for the soul. Okay, Alex Verdugo has not worked through anything. Yes, he's 8 for 19 over his last 19 at-bats, but that doesn't erase what he's done for 3 months. And all this is doing is foreshadowing us to just be disappointed with Jason Dominguez's usage. He shouldn't be a part-time player. He's a future cornerstone member of this organization. And that, guess what? That's partially the Yankees doing. They have fostered that narrative. And he came up last year and he reignited a team that was essentially dead in September. He went down with injury. And again, he's not being rewarded for his play from last year. He's not being rewarded when he hits a hot streak in AAA. His reward is enjoy the AL Cy Young winner on national television and then get immediately sent back to the middle of Pennsylvania. So they're setting us up for more disappointment here. There is no world in which there's competition between Jason Dominguez and Alex Verdugo. Every indication says this team is sticking with Alex Verdugo. And that could be a Judge thing too. Like Judge could constantly be throwing his hat in the ring for Verdugo since he orchestrated the trade for him. But yeah, I mean, great. The Yankees are going to bring up 2 players that should have been here all along. They don't do anything additive. They don't do anything impactful.
The grind is real.
The grind is real. Yeah. What your profession is a grind. Correct. Thanks.
When do you wake up ready to watch the Yankees because they play like night games mostly? You wake up in the morning. Do you feel like you're in that grind set when it like comes time to think about? Because I honestly feel like I'm grinding 24/7. I like can't go to sleep because of this fucking team, and then when I wake up, I think about them as well. So,
I wake up and I just grind pepper to try and figure out how it's like to be a New York Yankee every day.
Yeah. Do you blow it in your eyeballs and when they're down 2-0 to a lefty throwing slop? Do you just put ground pepper grinding in your eye sockets?
Keep grinding.
I sure do. Again, once every series, it looks like it's working. Like
sure.
Jazz hitting that insurance run, you're like, okay. Oh wow, that was actually like kind of fun and easy. And like there was a special play in there too, the Judge double play.
Yeah.
And then you're like, wow, just win one more in this series, and I'm like moderately satisfied. And it shouldn't even be that hard. You're facing some bad pitchers.
It shouldn't be. Speaking of the lineups, can't we just have some like I guess I'm fine with Glaber at the top right now, but can we just not keep switching after Stanton? Can it be Torres, Soto, Judge, Stanton, Jazz, or Austin Wells, and then figure everything else out?
No.
Like why is Jazz batting 5th one night and then 7th the other night behind Volpe? What is that doing? If you want all your impact bats closer to the top, I understand you want to diversify, but at that point, like it's happening naturally. You have Jazz or Austin Wells 5th or 6th, which is great. And then you have Volpe, Verdugo, and then whoever's playing first base, whether it's Rizzo, DJ, or Ben Rice. So like just stop moving guys when you don't need to. I don't know. I feel like it should be a little bit more static. And again, like we talked about, I just want to clarify what we always talk about. We talk about acting with intention, right? So when you don't have a leadoff hitter or anybody who's able to hit leadoff, that's when you have to make lineup changes. When Giancarlo Stanton's injured and you don't have a cleanup hitter, yeah, you have to cycle some guys in and out. But when Giancarlo Stanton is back, he's your cleanup hitter. Great, that's static. When I guess Glaber Torres is he's literally putting up his best numbers all season in the leadoff role. That's static. That becomes static. So now instead of fucking with everything beyond that, keep it consistent. So the guys who are naturally in the second half of the lineup who are already probably struggling a little bit, or someone like Jazz who is new to the team and wants some sort of routine because he's already been thrown off having to start at third base, just leave him somewhere consistently in the lineup every single day. Unless an injury happens and you're forced to shuffle and you're forced to move the hot hand around. Right now, they don't really need to do that. They just need to play Austin Wells more, and they need to figure out the first base situation. And like, yeah, at this point, you're not getting another leadoff hitter. I guess it's Glaber Torres. That's the front office's fault. And it's also Aaron Boone's fault for not figuring it out earlier, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, just stop with all the shuffling beyond, you know what you have at this point. Trade deadline's done. No crazy additions coming. You've already telegraphed you're not playing Dominguez as much as you wanted to. And even if you were, he probably should be at the bottom of the lineup because you want to talk about a lineup lengthener. That's what that would do. But yeah, stop moving. Why are we switching Verdugo and LeMahieu from 8-9? What does that matter? What does that do? I don't know what that does.
Why were we so upset when Jason Dominguez had to undergo Tommy John surgery last year too, by the way? Because here's 1 year later, and they would never have Alex Verdugo if they had Jason Dominguez all year. We would know exactly what we had going into the postseason. We wouldn't have this personnel shuffle. We would have another position locked down. We would have leverage in the Juan Soto talks. Yep. Not that really helps, but we would know more. I mean, it changed everything. And even he's an active player now. He's been active. He got hurt. He was so active, he got hurt again. He recovered. It's not like he was never coming back to life. Yeah. But we lost him for a key period of evaluation, and so we had to replace him because you can't start the season without a left fielder, and you also can't sign someone to a 2-month contract. So we ended up stuck with a veteran who we traded for, who's now here for the rest of the year, who can't hit, who can kind of field, who shouldn't be on a playoff roster ahead of Dominguez, but also the team likes him too much to bench him, and he ran knee first into a wall in the opening game of this series, so he has to play. Dominguez can't play. We wasted a full year of a super talented prospect, and are probably going to be intentionally worse going into October because of it, and will be intentionally worse going into this Cardinals series as well, because in a series where we could have technically skipped a starter because of an off day today, we did not, and Will Warren is pitching one of these games. So Eric Fetty on Friday night. That's Fetty Stroman, I believe. That's kind of fun. I hope they win that baseball game. Will Warren gets Kyle Gibson on Saturday. Kyle Gibson also always gives the Yankees trouble for whatever reason, even though he's a high 4s ERA hits allower. And then Nestor Cortes and Miles Michaelis in the Sunday game. They should win 2 out of 3. This is a 3-game homestand. They go to Texas immediately afterwards. I don't know which wizard or warlock designed this schedule, but whoever did it gave the Yankees a chance to not use Will Warren, and they decided to anyway. Will Warren, I'm very thankful that you held your ground against the Phillies that one time. I'm very thankful that you beat the Chicago White Sox and allowed the Yankees to rally back for you in the later innings, but Colorado Rockies put you to sleep on Old Timers Day. Not a valuable innings eater right now. Not an upside guy. Shouldn't be in any series of any value. And will be starting on Saturday afternoon.
Again, can start him if you got a 4-game lead in the division. Can't because you decided to not gain any cushion with 24 easy games on the schedule. So it's nothing against Will Warren. Again, a young player who needs some sort of semblance of consistency. He clearly is not ready for major league offenses, and the Yankees don't care. I know that the Yankees are in a bit of a precarious situation with the pitching. But again, their fault. They lied about Cody Poteet, said he was going to be shut down for 1 to 2 weeks. It's been 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's bad.
So yeah, it's all their problems, and it's just us reporting on them. So that's it. Yeah. Cardinals series, Cardinals are fighting for a playoff spot. They're not going to come in rolling over. So
no,
you look at a coin flip game tomorrow, you look at a loss on Saturday, and then you look at another coin flip game on Sunday. So this could very well be a series loss.
Yep. They do the Trump celebration. That's fun. Hopefully we don't see that. I would love to beat the St. Louis Cardinals, but I can't guarantee anything. I would have loved to have beaten Patrick Corbin. We didn't do that.
Would have been cool.
Let's go New York Yankees. We'll see you right back here Monday afternoon, 2:00 Eastern. Same time, same channel, same podcast. If you're joining us live, we appreciate it. If you're catching us on the audio feed on your favorite podcast platform, hit subscribe, give us a review. We'd love to hear from you there as well. I'm Adam Weinrib. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weinrib. Thomas Carannante, where can the people find you?
I am at Tommy's_takes. We are both at the official Yanks Go Yard Twitter account at Yanks Go Yard FS. Please head on over to yanksgoyard.com. We got all the content there for you. Lots of things changing over the next few days with roster expansion, playoff stuff, wild card standings, division standings, all that. Injuries, we got it all for you. Thanks for the support. Remember to please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching these podcasts, or if you know anybody who might be interested. And yeah, have yourselves a good weekend. Off day today. Breathe it out. Tough last couple days, but reset for the Cardinals, and then a little road trip next week. Rangers, Cubs. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk to you on Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern.
Why wouldn't we? We'll see you right here. Please do some normal baseball. Be normal. It's so much fun to be normal. Be normal. Play a not that good Cardinals team well. Play well. Win games. See you back here.